Welcome back to the show. Today we have Michael P. O'Rourke. He's the co-founder and CEO at Pocket Network. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Yourself?
Very good. Very good.
I'm excited to have you back on the show. You did the radio version, and actually we met in person at the Startup Expo down in Fort Lauderdale a few months ago. And what fascinated me about everything you're kind of doing, and what we'll get into that a bit later, is it's very, very kind of innovative. But maybe before we get into that, let's get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Michael O'Rourke. I was born in the Dominican Republic in Santo Domingo. Moved to the U.S. when I was like 2 years old. I'm a self-taught developer. Learned iOS development while I was finishing up my international studies degree at university.
Very cool.
And got into crypto when I was in about 2013.
Wow.
Bought my first Bitcoin then, and then met my co-founders at a startup in Sarasota where we all worked together for almost a year. We all became really, really good friends at that startup, and decided to leave that startup to start Pocket, actually.
Okay.
So done a bunch of Ethereum development, and Pocket turned from being a protocol on top of Ethereum as a set of smart contracts to its own completely separate blockchain. So now we're heads down building out Pocket and its ecosystem and everything.
Okay, so what exactly does that mean, and what exactly is Pocket?
Sure. So Pocket, really what Pocket does is makes it much easier for developers who want to build blockchain applications.
Okay.
We have a set of tools and infrastructure that, for example, it's like one line of code in your iOS application, and you have access to creating wallets, to the security, to everything, right? So at its core, really what we're doing is making it easier for developers to build applications that use blockchain.
Very
and really, I think a good comparison is like Amazon Web Services, where you have an app like Slack, for example, where they are famous for using Amazon Web Services. And Amazon Web Services offers things like storage, compute, load balancing, these kinds of services, right? And Amazon is that layer in between where they have everything below that, right?
Gotcha.
Well, with blockchain, you've got like a blockchain application, right? Like it's using some anonymity protocol or some identity or some file storage, right? Well, that app needs to be able to communicate to that blockchain, and Pocket sits in that layer right in between, so that app can communicate to that blockchain quickly and effectively and in a decentralized way, because frankly, there aren't any good decentralized solutions today.
Interesting. No, okay. So how did you meet, how did you come up with the idea for Pocket? Because you met your co-founders while you were working together, but how did you come up with the idea for Pocket?
That's a good question. So originally we actually wanted to build something else. So for a quick background, me and my co-founders, we all lived in the same apartment complex, and we drove together every day to work, 25 minutes to work and 25 minutes back to work. So these car rides were very productive car rides, and the first genesis of Pocket was actually there. But the actual first idea wasn't this idea of kind of like decentralized infrastructure. The first thing we want to build, our name we were calling it back then was Telcoin.
Okay.
We wanted to incentivize a market for your cell phone data. So, for example, when I travel to Paris and there's another mobile operator that's on the same frequency as my T-Mobile, for example, it would be very easy for me to sell that data on that market and actually get minutes and data for Paris, for example.
Interesting.
And in doing the research for that, the infrastructure, the technology was nowhere near where it needs to be for that to exist, although we still think it can exist.
Okay.
We kind of stumbled across Pocket at that time because there were some other things going on around the world too, where, for example, China banned these messaging apps, WhatsApp and Signal.
Right.
And not only China, but Brazil did, Egypt has, Iran. Some of these countries have banned these apps. And around this time, we started reading these news snippets about this happening. And we started thinking, well, what if these companies couldn't go to like Google, for example, and say, stop hosting these apps? Because, for example, one thing that Signal did, they did this clever thing called domain fronting with Google on Google Cloud. And what they ended up doing was every Signal message you sent made it look like a Google search. So they hid it for a while, but eventually the government caught on and told Google to stop doing that. So we were like, well, there's a really cool protocol in Ethereum called Whisper that's like that's like for messaging. It's a pure messaging. It's like sending messages on a blockchain. And there's a couple apps that are using that protocol. But what if you're hosting a decentralized set of servers instead of Google? Well, then the government couldn't actually go and shut them down, right? So you could actually have censorship-resistant messaging, which is, kind of helped inspire the idea at the beginning. But, things like that were happening. And, we kind of came across this idea. We were also using Infura, which is a really great addition to the Ethereum ecosystem. But we kind of saw how quickly Infura was growing. And because there's about a 90% chance that if you access an Ethereum dApp, it's using Infura. And although they've really helped bootstrap the Ethereum ecosystem, it kind of doesn't make sense to have this decentralized network with one centralized entity hosting all of the data, right? Not only that, but also hosting it on Amazon Web Services. So you've got these two centralized entities that are, supporting a major part of this decentralized network.
No, that makes sense. So how do developers actually use what you guys have built in Pocket in their own kind of apps?
Yeah, so all you need to do as a developer is download our SDK. For example, the package manager in iOS is called CocoaPods, and it's one line of code, CocoaPods install Pocket iOS, and that's it. And then all of a sudden in your app, you have really easy access to the core functionality of building a decentralized application. So for example, on our app, Banana Quest, when you first open the app and you have to create a wallet, which by the way, we call it accounts. We don't even want people to realize that they're using crypto in these apps. We think that for these, crypto apps to actually hit mainstream, they actually need to be fun apps for people to use, where the crypto doesn't matter, because really 99% of people don't care that it's crypto. They want to play a fun game. And if you earn some, valuable digital asset in the process, well, then great, right? Well, when you actually create this wallet, like in the code, it's one line of code. It's like literally func create wallet, right? Yeah. So we try to make it so that the developers don't have to think about the crypto side. So the library, what it does is it handles all the storage of the keys and everything, and the developer can actually just worry about building their fun app or whatever it is that they're building, and don't have to deal with like managing the private keys, making sure everything is stored safely, doing the cryptography, doing the smart contract calls, things like that. We try to abstract a lot of that complexity away so that the developer can worry about actually building their application.
No, that's very cool. I think just as myself, I'm more of a designer, but I've done some kind of development. How much time you guys save developers just by building this, right? I would literally, or anybody would need a team of people basically building this full time. So being able to leverage something like Pocket saves teams an astronomical amount of time. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So if you think about it, like back in the 90s when a startup was building out their website and everything, they would spend millions of dollars of hosting their own servers physically at the actual startup's location, right? And then the cloud came, Amazon came, Google came, and they just saved developers tons of time, right? Sure. And lowered the cost of development. Blockchains are kind of in that same phase where the more mature ones like Ethereum don't have that problem, but almost every other blockchain does have that problem, where if you're experimenting on a new blockchain, you actually need to run the node yourself to be able to test things, to build things, right? So you need to, and these blockchains need to actually worry about how easy is this to do? How much time does it take for these developers to do that? Well, Pocket's goal is to help abstract that entire process, right? Sure. So, all you have to do is just plug into the network, and you have a whole network of nodes that are willing to serve you this information that you need to build your app.
Sure. And basically the whole reason is it gets extremely complicated setting this up, right? Like it sounds simple at first, but as you start doing it, it gets really complicated really fast, right? And that's basically the need you guys are filling. I get that's a very simplified version of what you guys are doing, but is that kind of fair to say?
Yeah. Like for example, one of the big problems with Ethereum is if you're running Geth, first of all, the Ethereum blockchain, if you do the full node, it's over a terabyte of data, right? Sure. And not only that, you have to back them up. They're shutting down all the time. There's syncing issues. There's peer-to-peer network issues where they're not communicating properly. You have to restart them. having to deal with that as a developer is not something that you want to do.
No,
Right?
fair enough.
I mean,
Yeah.
as a self-taught developer, I didn't know much about databases, for example, when I was first learning. And there's this magic company called Parse, where like just like Pocket, and really Parse has informed development of Pocket significantly. Because for me, when I was learning, all I had to do was one line of code, put the library in my project. And for example, when I wanted to save an object to the database in the cloud, I would say literally in the code, object.save. And then I'd go to the Parse dashboard, and all of a sudden all the metadata was there, everything in the tables was perfect. Parse made it that easy for me to learn to write code, right?
Very cool.
We want to try to make it that easy for developers to write blockchain applications.
Makes sense. So you mentioned Banana Quest. What exactly is it, and how is it leveraging Pocket's technology?
Yeah, so Banana Quest, that's a fun story. We decided to build Banana Quest at a hackathon.
Okay.
There's a whole awesome series of hackathons called ETH Global that the Ethereum Foundation puts on, and we love Ethereum at our core, and we want to support them as much as possible. Plus, we wanted to go to this hackathon and build a cool app using our tools. So the full stack of our tools, from the SDK to the infrastructure to even some smart contracts on Ethereum, and show that full kind of process, right? So we went to this hackathon. We were kind of sleep deprived, came up with this idea called Banana Quest. We came up with, and it's basically a mix between Pokemon Go and geocaching.
Okay.
So with geocaching, you have these coordinates and you look like behind a trash can or something, and you find like this physical object that you can actually sign. Well, in our case, we don't want to, the trick is to hide the coordinates in plain sight, right?
Okay.
So what we do is we actually store a hash of the coordinates for the quest to make it actually kind of hard for people to actually complete the quests. But we store the hash on a smart contract on Ethereum. But what's interesting is that you create a quest and you decide how many bananas you want for that quest to reward. And what this does is shows an interesting way that you can leverage cryptocurrency in terms of on the developer side, because these bananas could actually have real value one day. And when people trade them, as a developer, I could actually earn some income from people trading these bananas, kind of like a royalty kind of a thing.
Interesting.
Right? And as a user, if I am like, a serious quester, even though this is kind of like a silly app, we've thought about, what if someone was just like questing all around the world, collecting bananas, for example, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They are collecting these rare digital tokens, right? And for completing these quests. So for example, if you're a quest creator and you create a quest with one banana, well, only the first person to complete the quest can actually earn that unique banana. So it's just a fun way to show developers how to build stuff on iOS. We've completely open sourced that repository on our GitHub.
Very cool.
You could literally take whatever you want from that code and remix it, do whatever you'd like, because what we really want is to show people how easy it is to build using Pocket, because really we built the first version of that in 48 hours at hackathon.
Wow. That's very cool, right? No, it's very cool to leverage your own tools for that stuff. So, and tell me your thoughts on this, because basically a brand could use Pocket and basically take what you did with Banana Quest and use it for their loyalty program, right? Because you see brands all the time. I remember when Iceland Air launched in the city I live, they basically hid 2 tickets somewhere in the city and you had to go get them. And then you had a free trip to, I can't remember what it was. It doesn't matter. But I could basically do that. I could set one banana somewhere in some place and say, if there's only one of this, and that's it could be, maybe it wouldn't be a banana. It would be like the company's logo or something. I don't know. But right? I could use it as a loyalty program or other things, right? Is that fair to say? Or give us some maybe other real world examples that people could use Pocket and what you kind of did with Banana Quest.
Yeah. So one event we're doing here locally in Tampa, either in December or early January, we're going to do a Banana Quest. We're going to do a Banana Quest bar crawl. So we're going to put
awesome.
We're going to put bananas in different bars in downtown St. Petersburg, and do some kind of deal with the actual bars themselves and the people playing the game, right? So people can get really creative with this, and these tokens, for example, with digital art, for example, could become extremely valuable. So if you're an artist, and there's a really cool startup here actually called artpiece.io, and
Okay.
they're using these same concept of these digital tokens for artists. So what these artists are going to do is they're going to paint a real painting, just one painting, and they're going to create maybe like 10 digital tokens.
Okay.
And they're going to start auctioning them off. And the first person to get maybe 6 or 7 of these tokens actually get the real painting sent to them.
That's cool.
Right? So it's like using this idea of digital scarcity. That could go for music, like,
Sure.
if you're a Grateful Dead fan, for example,
Sure.
and someone from like the 70s with the Grateful Dead shirt from one of their tours or concerts, they're extremely proud of that, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Well, if I go to like one of the small venues here and see a band, which has happened multiple times, and they give out one of these like unique digital tokens through some app or something like that to everyone who has come into the venue, right? And then 4 years later, they're like headlining Coachella.
Sure.
Well, all of a sudden, that token could become very valuable if that token gives me maybe access to the band or discounts or something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, totally.
and the band could actually start earning income through the trading of these tokens, right? So there's a whole host of opportunities for developers to build really interesting things using these digital tokens. And
Sure.
and frankly, right now, if you think of like a Venn diagram of, on one side you have just iOS developers, on the other side you have blockchain developers. Right now, that Venn diagram is extremely, extremely thin.
Sure.
And there's a whole host of really talented iOS developers that, if they can access the power of a blockchain with their creativity, could really, really, change their market, right?
Sure.
And new forms of income and things like that. So, we hope that people, take these ideas as inspiration. We're not taking Banana Quest very seriously, but if someone were to really take it, to the next level, that could really, we hope it serves as an inspiration.
No, I think that's really great, right? Because the thing that fascinated me about what you guys are doing, it's very disruptive, right? You're basically giving people tools to unleash their creativity, which I always love stuff like that, because you probably will, like, things people will create in the next couple years even. You and I probably, and a bunch of people, couldn't sit in a room and come up with all the things that people are going to create with it, right? And that's the fascinating thing about it. And it's almost similar to what the smartphone did, right? Is we have no idea when it originally launched that like Uber would be around, or delivery apps, or a handful of other, well, there's dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of apps, right? We had no idea. So I love what you guys are doing at Pocket, because realistically, nobody knows what people are going to create with your technology, which is extremely cool and fascinating. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, man, it's magic. Like that's funny.
Yeah.
You said Uber, right? Like I'm a big Harry Potter fan, and
Okay.
there's a part in the 4th book where Harry Potter summons his broom in like the challenge, and like we're summoning cars with our phones, with our magic wands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting.
And which is cool, right? And for example, just to see, like, we don't know what's going to be built. One of the most famous Ethereum dApps called CryptoKitties, which uses the same idea of these collectible tokens, but you're just breeding cats. It's really simple.
Okay.
It's a fun game, but really, really simple, and it's a great intro for people who have never used cryptocurrency before to try to get a CryptoKitty. Sure. Someone built, so this CryptoKitty is a set of smart contracts on Ethereum, and it's their own company. It's it's their own thing. Someone completely independently built this other app, this other dApp called Hyper Dragons.
Okay.
And completely independently, to grow your Hyper Dragon, you have to take a CryptoKitty and feed it to your Hyper Dragon.
Gotcha.
So you start having these games kind of build on each other. You got some zombie versions of it. So it's like you can kill your CryptoKitty and turn it into a crypto zombie. And, people are building games on top of games on top of games now.
Sure.
So you could take the same concept with Banana Quest and maybe take like a Hyper Dragon, a CryptoKitty, and a banana, and then, have these questing games. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Yeah, totally.
And all of a sudden you're in this world where, whether in real life or maybe in one of these virtual worlds that we are starting to see, you're starting to go in and out, and we start to kind of see like this world, like almost like Ready Player One, actually, which is really cool. So it's an interesting future that's being built right now, for sure. The base of it.
No, that's fair. So I'm curious though, obviously blockchain is kind of a big buzzword right now. Where do you think it's going to go? And do you actually think cryptocurrency is going to be the future? I think it is, but what's your thoughts on it, kind of being in the space?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I think blockchain and for example, Bitcoin is the first blockchain, is the first application on the first blockchain, and it's only been around for 10 years. We just celebrated its 10th birthday a few weeks ago. Kind of like the internet, where it was invented in 1962 to 1968. It really took until 1995, where we saw Netscape, where it was really only 50 million people using it, right? Where we have 2 billion people using it today. So given that time horizon, even if we think it's going to be smaller, we're still getting started. And I think we'll start to see applications being used in the next 3 to 5 years where we don't even know that blockchain is being used in the background, right? Like, that's kind of the purpose of Pocket is to make it so that people, we're just in there behind, but it's making it easier for developers to build really interesting things, right? So I really do think that this is going to be one of the most life-changing inventions of our lifetimes, for sure. This idea of a blockchain.
No, I 100% agree with you, but we're kind of out of time. So maybe let's close the show with mentioning where people can get more information about yourself, Pocket, and try out Banana Quest.
Yeah, for sure. If you want to check out our website, go to POKT.network and feel free to check it out. If you're a developer, we've got a bunch of documentation there. Check out our research forums. We've got a lot of conversation there, and you can actually see really on a deep level the development of this protocol. And if you want to check out Banana Quest and play the game, we just sent out our first round of beta invites. We created a bunch of quests around the world, actually, for people to complete them. You can go to bananoquest.com. So it's banana with an O instead of an A, because that's banana in Spanish. And follow us on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @O_ROURKE and @POKT Network. So we're pretty active on there. Join our Slack. And just reach out to us and we'll definitely respond.
Perfect, Michael. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time of your day to be on the show, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day, man.
Great. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Okay, bye.